I don't have any comments to make tonight, but I'd like to ask Keith Nelson to come forward and talk just a little bit about the recently discovered emerald ash borer.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, this last week or week and a half ago, so the emerald ash borer was discovered in Winona. We expected it to be arriving at some point because it was not too far downriver from here. But now it has been confirmed here by the Department of Ag. Fortunately, the city is in, because of the plan you adopted back in 2012, the city is in a pretty good position to work with that. A third of the trees on the boulevards and parks have been treated. We've gone through the process of removing approximately 100 trees and replacing them with, removing 100 ash trees and replacing them with a variety of trees on the boulevards in town. So we're sitting pretty good there. Like I had commented somewhere else, we anticipate it to be a slow start. It'll be a couple years before, I think it'll be a couple years before we see it really taking off. But in a couple years, it should do this kind of thing throughout the community anyway. We are in the process of putting together our disposal site. I don't have all the details on that, so I don't really want to announce that at this point. But we'll have something in the website and something in the press when we actually have a disposal site in place. I'll take any questions.
Once the emerald ash borer is discovered in an ash tree, how long till the tree dies?
Usually when it's discovered, you'll see a portion of the crown dying back, maybe 25%. Then after that, it could be another year, could be a couple of 2 years. Once you can actually see it, the infestation is pretty severe. So a year or two.
Other questions, George?
In regards to the disposal of this ash borer lumber, can residents request it? Let's say if they live close by, you're cutting a tree across from my property, could I say I'll take the wood, or is that not possible?
That is definitely possible. The ideal world is it's cut down and it's burned as quickly as possible. There is no law or policy against a property owner or neighboring property owner to take it and burn it. It is a law against taking it out of the county. You can't do that, but you can keep the wood yourself. The problem is, if you do that, the bug still stays in it and the bug does come out. So it doesn't really slow down the process.
Where do we take it to?
We're not going to publicly go with that yet, where it is. We want to get all the bugs worked out, all the details worked out on that. Fully unintentional.
Okay.
Is it better to cut it now to burn it in the fall or over the winter, or would it be better to let it stand until fall and then cut it?
The sooner you can cut it, the better. A couple of reasons is you don't want the bug getting out and flying away. And two is once the tree starts dying, it becomes more brittle, and then it gets really expensive to take down. It's cheaper to take down a tree that is somewhat alive than a tree that is brittle and dangerous.
But what I hear you saying is you could store the wood till next winter?
You could. Again, the best of, if I had a magic wand, we'd be burning them immediately. But yes, you can store it until next winter.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Keith. Judy?
I have no comments.
Okay, roll call.
Mayor Peterson,
Here.
Councilman Thurley,
Here.
Craig,
Here.
Alexander, Iden, Borzakowski,
Here.
Double.
Here.
This afternoon, I emailed to council an addition to the agenda for item 5.13, and we need a motion to approve that addition to the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Al. Comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Under the required public hearings, item 2.1 is the Rivers rezoning from R1 to R1.5.
Declare the public hearing open and ask, I don't know if the city attorney has any comments, but Carlos Espinoza, our assistant city planner, to come forward.
Sure. Afternoon, Mayor and Council. I have a brief presentation going over the agenda item in front of Council tonight. And we'll see if it comes up here. All right. The rezoning request in front of you tonight, the Rivers rezoning R1 to R1.5 in the Valley Oaks subdivision. This presentation will go over your agenda item and the information provided therein. The Valley Oaks subdivision as a whole was approved in 1986 as part of a preliminary plat process. And Prior to that process, an EAW, an environmental assessment worksheet, was completed for the entire project, and that EAW projected 350 housing units for the entire subdivision. After approval in 1986, final plats for this subdivision were filed as development proceeded. The process resulted in approval of 6 final plats between the years of 1986 and 1999 for a total of 195 housing units that are currently constructed. A 7th final plat for 39 single-family housing units was approved in 2003, but that plat was never recorded, and the lots have remained undeveloped right now. The current rezoning proposal that's in front of you tonight relates to that area, the 7th subdivision. That area is shown in red right here. It's approximately 21.57 acres, and the rezoning request would facilitate the development of 76 new housing units in the development, bringing the total in the development to 271 housing units. Information provided by the developer and presented to the Planning Commission previously. This request is to facilitate twin home residential use. They're proposing 76 units, 74 of them to be twin home units, and 2 of those to be single-family units. The single-family homes would be developed at the entrance to the new development area, to this rezoning area, so that the transition from single-family to twin home would occur within the development instead of right at the boundary. Something that's important to consider in this rezoning is the original master plan for the development as a whole. The original master plan is up on the screen there, and I actually had to tilt it a little bit. So the entrance to the subdivision is on the left-hand side of the screen here, and the area that we're addressing tonight is over here. The original zoning master plan for Valley Oaks subdivision specified a mix of R1, R1.5, and R3 zoning. R3 zoning to facilitate apartment uses and multiple family dwelling uses in this general area of the subdivision. R1.5 to facilitate townhome type uses in these 2 areas, and then R1 in the rest of the subdivision. In general, development after 1986 and its approval followed this zoning plan, but one significant change I have noted is basically right in the middle of the development there. It was an area zoned originally for R1.5 and intended for townhomes, but because of changing development patterns in the valley, that area was rezoned to R1 in 1998. Analysis of this rezoning request has found that there was no error or oversight in the original R1 zoning of the area in question. Adjacent land uses have not changed significantly since the original zoning. Potential uses of the requested R1.5 district would not impose an undue or excessive hardship on surrounding properties. In addition to the petitioner, the proposed rezoning benefits the subdivision's housing diversity in conformance with original plans for the subdivision. And finally, because the comprehensive plan generally supports the request, the proposed rezoning should not be construed as spot zoning. On April 7th, the Planning Commission reviewed this rezoning request and voted 5-3 to approve it. The Planning Commission's recommendation of approval on that day aligned with these findings, and the same findings are presented again to Council tonight on the front page of your agenda items. So there's 4 actions available tonight. You could approve the request as submitted. Under this option, a motion to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and to introduce the ordinance in your package should be made. I just wanted to emphasize this: 4 votes are required for approval if Council decides to go this route tonight. You could also deny the request. Under this option, Council will need to state on record findings supporting the denial of the request. You could also modify the request, and finally table the item to allow staff additional time to answer questions and take up this issue again at a subsequent council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Are there any questions for Carlos? George?
Yeah, just one for everyone. This is the final development phase, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
No other questions for Carlos? I'll open this to the public. If anybody wishes to speak, step forward and state your name and address.
My name is Mike Rivers, Rivers Development. I've lived in Valley Oaks for 22 years. In talking with the Valley Oaks owners and hearing their concerns at the last public hearing, I've done the following. We've addressed the water runoff. I've discussed the storm runoff with Keith, Director of Public Works, and Brian, the city engineer, and I received the following. Valley Oaks has a stormwater runoff plan, including the 7th edition. That's been in place. There's an earthen reservoir, and that will have to remain and be made larger if our engineers and the city engineers require it. And we have volunteered to put in an additional earthen dam if necessary, if it's deemed necessary by the engineers. The second thing was the traffic concerns. I've heard lots of complaints about fast traffic, people running stop signs out there, and it's suggested that this would continue and make it worse. I've discussed the matter with the city officials and Tom Williams, the assistant chief, and he's going to take this up with his department and put more watching what's going on out there. He did also say that anybody that has problems with that or concerned should call him directly. I don't believe having more twin homes than the original number of single families will cause more traffic. Studies have shown that traffic will not be notably increased by twin homes over single family homes. Generally, twin homes have smaller occupancy and they usually have older people. The property values was a third concern. There are many areas where the twin homes and single families in Winona coexist. One area is Waterford, where there are large single-family homes around the perimeter, and then twin homes, high-quality twin homes in the center. The 7th edition area has been laid out as it was since 2003. The only change will be from single-family to twins. We've been in the Winona real estate market developing and building, and we've done the majority of the building out there in Valley Oaks. We've developed and controlled construction since the beginning. There are covenants in place on every abstract that control the construction and control what happens out in Valley Oaks, and that's on each abstract that's out there now. The covenants for the twin homes will be similar, but we'll have a stricter association agreement that will assure that lawns and areas are kept neat. We are planning 2 or 3 different home designs. I've engaged Pat Becker from Becker to Home Designs to work with us on designing the homes. I've got put together a development team. Dick Barber, Lyle Fox, and my brother Don will be involved in that. We feel that additional tax base would be about $6 million more than if it was a single-family house. About $19 million is what we figure, about $225,000 per townhome would be the taxing. So that's all I've got to say. Any questions?
Yes, none. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? State your name and address.
I'm Gail Getzman. I live at Big Valley Ranch, right at the end of Valley Oaks subdivision so far. That was my family farm, sold to Mike by the dad's second wife. My land I purchased before Dad got involved with the second wife. And my land now is in the Minnesota Land Trust. I have my land monitored every year by the Land Trust to make sure that it's in the conservation and sustainable measures, that I'm following the sustainable measures that I had agreed to. And my main thing, everything is the same on my land except no development. And it's free there for people to hike, to take their skis and ski, horseback ride, whatever. And I want it to be in a natural state. We are real concerned. I'm real concerned. I appreciate being asked to this meeting because I respectfully want to make sure that none of you are confused. I'm the eldest of 6 children in the family. We celebrate our family Century Farm this year. I'm real excited about this because I was very fortunate and blessed to have a piece of the family farm. If I would not have purchased mine a few years before Dad met the second wife, our family would have nothing. Our family inherited nothing. I want everybody to know I did not sell my land or any land I had to this development. As far as I'm concerned, it would still be a family farm. I mean, the whole thing, but I know it's what it is. It's a nice development, and I have no quarrel with what Mike is doing. I think he's done a good job, and he does it well. However, I think when my dad passed in 1979, the farm was then being sold by the second wife, and the first division that was developed made problems with our area. We live at the end where our cattle pass was as a farm. Is also the place where the water drains down into East Burns Valley Creek. The first division that went in, we had a huge storm during that time, and we had 8 inches of rain or water go through our stable. We were not well drained at that time, and so the city was very, very nice. They came out and looked and saw that we needed to do something to prevent the overflow. My land all flowed into the gully that went down the middle of the valley. And that gully was right where the main street goes up through Valley Oaks. And I know when there's a lot of water, it gushes down that main street. But there's only so much that little culvert or cattle pass can take, and my dad's cattle used to go through there and graze on the pasture on the other side. There was cement steps going on each side, and that was also the drainage and a cattle pass. Since the development, I have never seen graffiti in that little cattle pass until of course, we get more people. The pass is full of graffiti. We have had a real problem with the drainage in the past, and the county put in a berm, but the berm prevents my land from draining into that big area there. So I'm asking that when this development is put in, because of the large amount of water that's going to come down the valley, I feel that and Brian was there. We had Brian there so he could take another look. We need more ways to drain our property. When McNally apparently McNally bought some land from Mike, and he did the development to the left, the townhomes. When he put that development in, I had all kinds of problems on my land. The houses were drained onto my property. They were supposed to be drained into the ball field, but many of the houses drained underneath the ground on a pipe, went into my property. The land that my land is supposed to drain down into probably the ballpark too, it gushes down onto the road that has no curb and gutter, and so the water has no place to go but either down the road where the fire hydrant is, and it goes onto my land. So the road drains onto my land where the fire hydrant is at the end, and also the homes were drained. And we had a lot of problems. I had a hard time getting Dave McNally to a meeting. The only way we got him to a meeting to see if this could be fixed, because my land was eroding there. My road eroded completely out. And we could not get him there, but the association got together. They got him there. We promised to do different things, I and the association. When it came time to Dave McNally to do something, he did nothing. He promised to do his job, his part, and he did nothing. So that I don't know if there can be a rule, and now he's in a problem, but I don't know if we can get more drainage or get some help getting some curb and gutter in that area. I don't know how that works. but I wish we could. And I don't know if the county or the city or Mike or whoever can do curb and gutter there, it would sure help. The association, I think, would be happy. There's mostly retired people in that association. They're retired, they don't want to do a lot of work, and it took us a lot. We put a berm and they did some riprap, and we try to keep the water under control, but it's still a problem. When the subdivision went in, they flushed the mains and killed all the fish in the creek. And I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that doesn't have to happen again. I think it was a mistake, but it's a common mistake. Maybe it's an easy thing to flush it and not catch the water. I don't know, but I know it killed the fish and it upset a lot of people. I think the division is too dense. You say 74 twin homes. That's 74 times 2. And in the space of a single family, a family home, you can get 3 or 4 of these twin homes. There's a lot of family. And we don't know for sure that it's going to be any less people there than in a single family home that is already there. I kind of question that. I just think that's too many homes in that area. It's the narrowest part of the valley where these homes are going, and I think it's too dense. I think we need to just maybe put in a few homes and see how it works, see how it drains, and not just go in there and bulldoze everything and get everything out, and then we are in trouble. I want to make sure that won't happen. And I think we need stricter association surveillance. I know we all want to make friends. We want to keep friends. We won't want to have any problems. I have a lot of friends in Valley Oaks. I think the subdivision is top-notch, but I have no quarrel with Mike, but I do think we do need stricter surveillance, and I think he's talked to the sheriff and the police department, and they're going to kind of monitor everything. But I just want to make sure that's done and not make the mistakes that were made in the first one. We need more drainage on our land. Otherwise, we're going to be in real trouble.
Thank you, Gail.
Okay, thank
Ben,
you.
did you want to say anything?
Yeah, Ben Stobart with Gail. When we had this 8 inches of water going through our barn, it did a lot of damage. And we have an apartment down there, and it cost us a lot of money because of it. We ruined hay and everything. The city put a dike up there a little higher, but this prevented the water from the ranch draining into this. So then they put a pipe in there, I don't know, it's probably about this big with a backflow preventer in it, so it would drain. Well, that ain't working. So now we have a dam that is holding the water on the ranch property. So now, I've seen that water pretty near going over the top of that dike. And if we're gonna add more water through there, and again, I don't have anything against Mike, but we are concerned about the water. If this water goes through there, we built a new house there with a walkout basement. Maybe we could get that flooded. The other house has got a basement to it too. If it goes overflows, it'll get flooded. I think there needs to be a couple of pipes put in there and put in properly. The other one wasn't put in properly and stuff. And like she said, and they say, well, everything's engineered. Well, it wasn't engineered for Big Valley Ranch from this first subdivision. I'm not blaming Mike. Mike does a good job on a lot of stuff. And when this housing went in there, these townhouses, that's a joke. They had all their pipes running on her land. I filled in many, many times a ditch that deep from their water running. So you can talk about this being engineered. You know, I worked in construction for 44 years for Schwab as a project superintendent. I know that isn't fixed. Simple is simple. So Gail's place is sitting there. She's trying to make this a place for people to use and people walk it, and that's fine. We allow it and different stuff. And I think the water problem is she's getting the water problem. This hasn't been resolved. And you can say maybe it's been resolved for the townhomes. Yeah, they just dumped the water on her land, and the same for the subdivision. So I think that ditch has to be maybe it has to have a concrete wall put there with some backflow pipes, backflow preventers, so we can drain our land and keep it from getting flooded out. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.
thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak?
Mayor, I just have a question.
Of Gail?
Well, for Keith, providing, in
Well,
regards to.
we'll have council discussion when
Okay,
this is.
Hi, good evening. My name is Todd Lepper. I'm at 307 Valley Oaks Drive. We've been in the subdivision about 2.5 years now. We generally like the subdivision. We do have a concern with traffic through the area. Right now, there is limited sidewalk access in that subdivision. There's the whole thing, probably about 6 blocks long, 7 blocks long, and there's sidewalk in the first block up by the farm, and then there's a couple blocks of sidewalk in the middle. We do not have sidewalk through the entire length. Our primary concern is the number of kids who are in that area. The issue of traffic, the traffic speed has already been brought up. The answer so far has been, we'll wait and see. Let's keep an eye on it. We can try and use the law enforcement to prevent any conflicts or excessive speed. If that doesn't work, then maybe some kind of way to slow down the traffic, whether that's speed bumps or something else. What we'd like to see would be sidewalks. So particularly, and if I can just ask for a clarification, there was on the slide, it said 74 twin families. Is that 74 lots with twin families each? Or is that 37 lots of twin families each?
So it would be a total of 37 structures,
Okay,
and each structure.
plus the 2 additional single.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, understand. So we are looking at 76 additional families in the area. Yeah, I understand the intent. We were at the planning meeting a couple weeks ago, and so I understand the intent to try and attract older residents, fewer kids, maybe fewer trips. Older residents don't always drive slower, particularly that part is downhill. And with the number of kids, there's parking on both sides of the street. It's very easy to wind up with a situation where there's a parked car on one side and speeding traffic down the hill. So, as part of the rezoning, I understand the intent. We'd like to see sidewalks to go with it. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? State your name and address.
My name is Richard Barber, N 2882, La Crosse, Wisconsin. I've been involved with Twin Homes since 1981, and I will say with confidence that 99% of our occupants have been semi-retired or retired people. This style of housing has not attracted families for whatever reason. It really isn't set up for them. Anybody is open to buy them, but they have not attracted families with children. Southeast side of La Crosse, we had a substantial development called Juniper, and that is exactly where the semi-retired and retired people went. I've since been involved with them in the city of Onalaska, village of Holman, Wautoma, and Wautoma was losing residents to Oshkosh because they had no place to go. Right now, our housing market is high demand for the semi-retired, retired people to go to some type of housing other than from their home to an assisted living or a nursing home. There's really not much out there for a step in between, and this is pretty typical in different markets that I visit. As our baby boomers have been aging, they're getting 55 plus, 60 plus, they're looking to get into something smaller that's easier to take care of. And I hear it over and over and over again. What we're looking for is 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and laundry on the main floor. Typically what we've done is we've built a 2-car attached garage with no steps from the garage into the house so that if they become wheelchair bound, they can stay in their homes longer. They really don't want to go to an assisted living. They average about $3,800 a month. I work with the Ganther Company out of Oshkosh on CBRFs. I know the type of people that go into these homes. And they want to stay in their homes as long as they can without having to go into an assisted living or going into a nursing home. The runoff is a major concern we also have. I've said it before and I'll say it again, the engineers are the ones that have to design this. Current standards was upgraded in the state of Minnesota in 2008, and they cannot allow any additional increased runoff from what it currently is after the development. So whatever's coming off that property now is what it has to be when the development's done, is the engineering design standards. And I did verify that with my engineer that's worked on Minnesota properties. Not only is it reviewed by my engineer, but it's reviewed by the city engineer, and also then it goes to the state. The state is the one that issues the permit, not the city. I've done developments in Minnesota before, so I do know the process. It's very carefully looked at and weighed before anything is given for any permits to do anything. That has to all be in place first before anything happens, aside from the preliminary plat approval, which is also required by public hearing by the city and public hearing again on the final plat. So it is carefully monitored in the state of Minnesota more closely than other places I've been. Traffic study we've touched on. The traffic study does the senior housing travels, I believe you have information I've researched from Minneapolis throughout the Sun Belt. It generates exactly half of the traffic that a typical family does. So we know that the traffic patterns, and I agree that not all seniors drive slow, but most of them do. So we feel confident that the traffic will not increase because of the increased number of units. I believe the information was passed out and circulated that we had done extensive research on through the Institute of Transportation Engineers. Our streets are public streets at 37-foot width back to back. They're not substandard streets. So we do have the most popular public street that's going into the subdivision that engineers across the country have accepted. And it is correct, the speed is the problem in subdivisions, not the traffic count. It's the speed that's been the problem. And that needs to be monitored. Various ways of doing that. I believe in your handouts that you received, we've had various suggestions in there. The depth of each of these lots is about 200 feet on each side, plus a 60-foot right-of-way. So we've got 400 feet of buildable, plus 60 feet in the middle that's already been roughed in. The association for the twin homes is going to be separate from the first 6 additions. It'll comprise of 3 board members. The maintenance of the people can either take care of the yards themselves with the snow and the grass, they can get together with their neighbors and take care of it, or they can in essence have the association officers put it out for bids, and then they will be able to take care of their yards and snow through an association. So it really depends upon which direction they want to go. The association will also be monitoring and enforcing the upkeep of the yards for the safety and beautification of the project. Mike is going to be in control of the construction of this phase, whereas before he did sell lots off. This time he's going to stay in control of the construction himself through his own company. I think that's important to be sure that what's been promised is what gets delivered. So you sell a lot, you don't lose control. And so, last but not least, we do have 5-foot sidewalks planned for both sides of the street all the way through the new subdivision. And if the city thinks 6 foot is better than 5, that's okay. We too feel sidewalks should be there so they have a place to walk instead of being out into the street. I sat there a couple different times over the last month watching traffic, and there is a lot of people walking in the streets that, probably should be avoided. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Sure.
I'd like to bring up or readdress the issue of the sidewalks, if I may. Sidewalks in the new subdivision are great, or the new plat, but that doesn't address the sidewalks that are already there. Right now, the only place to walk in the subdivision is on the street, except for those small sections that have sidewalks. So we would like to see retrofit to go in and install sidewalks in the other sections. In my line of work, we do a lot with risk management, where you take a risk, you look at the probability, you look at the severity. What's the probability of a car versus pedestrian? Perhaps it's fairly low, but what's the severity? Could be catastrophic. So what can we do to mitigate that? And that would be to install sidewalks throughout. So not just in the new section. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Ask again, anybody else wish to speak? One final time, anybody else wish to speak? Hearing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and open it up for council discussion.
Oh, I would note, we did have a letter from Mr. Brandon Carlson at 104 Forest Oaks Court, and his letter will be entered into the record.
Okay, thank you. Al?
Well, I would like to make a resolution to introduce the attached ordinance and adopt the findings of the planning commission.
Is there a
We
second?
can have
I'll
something
second.
for discussion.
Okay, motion by Al, seconded by Paul. Discussion? George?
Go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple of things here. The water problem that Ben and Gail talked about, is that something that Keith, you and your staff can look into and try to come up with a resolution to this? To see why it's happening and if it's gonna continue to happen, or?
Yeah, we certainly will look into that. It is separate from the subdivision up there that's being proposed tonight, but I was not familiar with the problem from the townhouses. We'll look at it.
Okay. And would there be any idea as to why that when this subdivision was built, and I know this happens in a lot of new subdivisions, sidewalks are not put in? Anybody have an understanding as to why that is? And if sidewalks were to be put in, would that be assessed to the homeowner?
In our subdivision ordinance, sidewalks are not required in new subdivisions, so that could be one of the reasons why they weren't put in subsequent phases of the subdivision. I can show on a map here generally where the sidewalk is. The sidewalks run from the entrance of the subdivision right here in this general area where the subdivision meets East Burns Valley Road, and run along Valley Oaks Drive on the east side of the road. And they terminate at Oakwood Court, which is approximately in this location here. So you have a sidewalk on one side of the street running from the entrance of the subdivision to about right there. And then there would be a gap in coverage for sidewalks between this area here and the proposed area for rezoning where sidewalks will be provided as proposed by the developer on both sides of the street. The sidewalks, if they were put in, would be assessed to the homeowner, as is the case in every other area of the city. It would be the same as what occurs throughout Winona.
Because I know going through, like through Waterford and Bluffview and Creekwood, all the subdivisions along Highway 43 and east there into Homer, I noticed none of them, even where I'm at, none of us have any sidewalks. So that explains why. Thank you.
What would be the process if property owners who don't have a sidewalk would like to have one? Is there a petition that they need to submit to the city? So many people need to sign. What's their process?
Keith, did you?
There's a permitting process for putting the sidewalk in, and an individual property owner could put in a sidewalk in front of their home only if they wanted to. It'd be at their cost, but it's a permit to do that, being it's within the public right of way.
If a subdivision or the people in a subdivision, is there a process in which X number of people sign a petition to have that done by the city and then assessed back to the property? Is there a process in place to do that?
I know of no
Mayor and
process.
Councilman, I don't believe there is a formal process to do that. We very seldom see these subdivisions come in and ask for sidewalks to be put in after they've been developed.
Okay.
City Attorney?
The Chapter 429 process does allow a petition process to petition for a public improvement. And so, I mean, that can be done. It's not typically done. Typically, the city does, in particular with sidewalks, typically sidewalks are done at the same time you do a street, you know, and so it's usually part of the city's capital improvement plan when this occurs, but certainly property owners could petition, and then the city would have to, it would end up being up to the city council whether or not you move forward with the project.
But we would not necessarily have to go through each property having to deed an easement through their property because it could be contained probably within the road easement,
Depends on
On
how
the
wide the
right-of-way.
right-of-way is, yeah.
but they would have to agree for the assessment.
They wouldn't have to agree for the assessment. Certainly, the city could decide how much of the project would be assessed to property owners.
But they would have to initiate the process.
They could, you could also initiate the process.
Okay.
Well, I agree with the speaker that sidewalks certainly are a safety issue out there. And I don't know if the homeowners are interested, but you do have a lot of people walking down that street, and especially through the main thoroughfare, Valley Oaks Drive, coming down the hill. I think it is a safety issue, and if the people living out there feel it's an issue, then I think they should come to the council and ask us to work with them to provide sidewalks. And it certainly promotes community. I like that part of it too. Other comments? Well, I'd like to state my support for this project. I think that, some of the concerns about the property values are probably unfounded based on other areas of the city that have shared single-family homes and townhouse mix. And I don't think the traffic is going to be any greater than what was already proposed out there for single-family homes. And I think there's a real need for this kind of housing. And for that reason, I'm gonna support the motion. George?
Yeah, just conclude here that, we're here tonight with another subdivision expansion request, as we see throughout our city happening, especially out in our rural areas. And a lot of good valid concerns about it. I have received phone calls, emails, I've been stopped on the street regarding this development. The comments are both for it and against the project, with a few letting me know that they don't care one way or another. Where have I been through this? Well, as I just mentioned, the communication I had with the folks out there, I've met with the planning department, I've met with the developer, and Carlos and I, a week ago Wednesday, we toured the area to be developed, plus Valley Oaks as well too. And 3 areas of concern, of course, are being raised: water runoff, traffic, and how the value of property might change. I will have to admit, the property change, that's a new one for me, because in all my years of my 16 years here of being involved in developments, I've never really had that one come up as to how would it change my value. Traffic, every new development brings more traffic. When Valley Oaks was being started, it's a good example. The roads are designed to handle the traffic, and improvements in traffic control have been made, and we still need to look at inside the development, but outside of the development. Homer Road, from the vocational school to the East Burns Valley turnoff, there's been a right turn lane put in there, and many people have expressed a good gratitude for that in making that area very, very much safer. The water runoff is still a problem, and like I say, Keith will look at that with whatever engineers all need to be in there. And I say in the property values, I don't see where it's gonna devalue them. You're gonna have a townhome probably worth the value of your home. As we start into this new subdivision, he's gonna have 2 single-family homes to break it up in there. And, if I could see any reason or anything that would really put up a detriment, I would vote against this project tonight, and every one of you people out there know that. I see nothing as a detriment to this project. I think it will be good for Valley Oaks, it'll be good for the city, and the issues that rise, we've all committed that we will work on rectifying those. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak?
Just a comment or a question for our city attorney. Since this is a zoning ordinance, it takes a special vote, is that correct?
It takes a vote of a majority of all members of the council, so it takes 4 votes to pass.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Under the petitions, requests, and communications, item 3.1 is the 2014 Steamboat Days Agreement. And there are members of the festival here. I will note some of the changes for this year. There's a new carnival providing more rides and games. It's the second year for the car auction. However, it will be moved to the parking lot at the 111 Riverfront Building due to the anticipated construction on Midtown Foods. The craft show is being moved to the parking lot at the corner of 5th and Center Streets. And new this year is also a water ski show on the Mississippi River. And Maynard is here. Any other members stand up? And Fred and Pam, Mike, Chris. Anyone else want to make comments?
I would move to adopt the following resolution.
Second. Motion by George, seconded by Jerry. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.2 is a request for licenses for the 2014 Steamboat Days Festival. This is for the temporary on-sale license and the carnival license.
So moved. Motion by Paul,
Second.
seconded by George. Any discussion?
Yes, nothing specific, but just before this is all past us, thank you so much for all the tremendous work you do every year. It just is great. It looks even better this time, so good luck and thank you.
Anything else? We'll vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.3 is a request for the Winona International and Sprint Triathlon on June 7th and 8th.
I would move to approve the license agreement.
Second.
Motion by George, seconded by Paul. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.4 is the Live at the Levee license agreement for 2014. The dates of their events are May 10th, August 2nd, October 11th, and December 20th. And there are members of the Live at the Levee committee present if you have questions.
I'll
Sean?
move the recommendation.
Motion by Paul,
Second.
seconded by George. Discussion? I would also like to thank the Live at the Levee folks for everything they've been doing down there. It's exciting to see the events taking shape. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.5 is the license agreement with Winona State University for the Levee Park Boat Dock.
I would move to authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement.
Motion by George, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Paul. Discussion? Al?
Yeah, a couple of questions, first of all. How was the fee of $4,000 per year arrived at? What was the logic behind it? And would the vessel be moored at the dock year-round, even with river ice? Anybody here from Winona
Somebody
State who
from
could
Winona
answer that?
State or Judy, do you want to address it?
Mayor and council, the fee actually came as we were assessing the possibility of improvements to the dock and what would be
Okay.
needed in that area, and whether or not we would ever have a future for an additional dock to have more of a community boat operation. And so that's where the amount of the fee came up.
Okay.
Gary, maybe you can address the other part of the question about the docking?
Would you repeat it, please, Councilman Thurley?
Sure. Is the vessel going to, the boat, excuse me, going to stay at the dock year-round, even when the river freezes over, or is it going to be dry docked somewhere?
No, it is not. In the fall, it will be returned to La Crosse and stored there in all likelihood.
Okay. Yep.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.6 is a request by Winona State University to close Cal Fremling Drive on Friday, June 6th for their boat christening. They would also like to reserve 50 parking spots in the parking lot and have a reserve sign on the levee wall.
For a motion?
I would so move.
Motion by Paul, seconded by George, I assume. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.7 is the Midtown Foods license agreements. There are two separate agreements.
I wouldn't, go ahead.
Jerry?
Move to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the 2 license agreements.
Second.
Motion by Jerry, seconded by George. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.8, a request to close Market Street for a benefit for Barb Mard on June 28th.
I would move to approve that request.
Motion by George. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Paul. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.9, appointment to the Citizens Environmental Quality Committee of Daniel Hall.
Move to confirm that appointment.
Second.
Motion by Al, seconded by Jerry. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.10, reappointments to the Fine Arts Commission of James Troughton and Ann Scott Plummer.
Move to approve those appointments.
Motion by George,
I'll second it.
seconded by Al. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.11 is a request by St. Mary's University to close the city path for a track meet on Saturday, April 26th.
I would move to grant that request.
Motion by Al,
Second.
seconded by Jerry. Discussion? George?
How did St. Mary's get in here?
Mixing up the color.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.12 is a request to hold a 5K by the Bluffview Montessori on Saturday, May 17th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jerry, seconded by George. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
The new item approved tonight for the agenda is 3.13, Cotter High School Track and Field Street Closure Requests. This is temporary closure of Lee Street on a number of different dates for track meets.
Move to approve.
Motion by Jerry,
Second.
seconded by George. Discussion?
My
Al?
only discussion is every time we close streets at Lee, that residents in that Lee Street area have access to their properties.
Anything else? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Under unfinished business, item 4.1 is to award the contract for the 2014 bituminous mill and overlay project. The only bidder was Dunn Blacktop with a bid of $840,361.60. The engineer's estimate was $917,328.75.
I want to move to adopt the attached resolution awarding the contract to Dunn Blacktop.
Motion by George,
Seconded.
seconded by Al. We're gonna fix some streets.
Yeah.
Good news. George?
I said we budgeted $1 million, right? And we got 840. Will we be able to do another 160,000?
We certainly are able to add on to this. As you recall in the discussion, several of the streets towards the end of it are the old seal coat streets, and we want to see how that works in this process of the milling it up and then overlaying it. And if that goes well, we certainly could add more of the streets that were on the second part of the list to this project. So we'll see how that goes.
But is there any particular reason why our estimates on the detail work was so dramatically different than the bid?
Just a great price this year.
Okay.
Prices from the estimate are based on last year's prices, so.
Okay. Other comments or discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 4.2 is the utility fee credits, and this evening we distributed a list of those property owners and addresses that would be considered for inclusion on that credit.
Is there a motion?
I would so move that, to accept these names on the list.
Second.
Motion and a second. Motion by George, seconded by Jerry. Discussion?
Yes. I know it says so in here, but this will be the final deadline. I mean,
Well, the deadline was April 1st, and so,
we're extending it, but this will be the final. I mean, that's, my seconding is that this is it.
well, I have a comment I guess I would make. I'm not gonna support this. I think that we had a deadline of April 1st, and I think it was well publicized, and I think we had good response, more than expected. I think the council was very generous, and I just think that if we had an April 1st deadline, I'd like to stick with it, but that's my opinion. Anybody else?
I somewhat feel the same position as that, I think that this got a lot of publicity, and that people knew the deadlines, and so I would tend to agree with that.
Anybody else? Al?
Well, I think we shouldn't hold hard and fast to those deadlines because, again, the weather is unpredictable, and obviously, these folks missed that information in some form or fashion, but I don't think they should be penalized for that.
Okay. Any other comments? We'll vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And under new business, item 5.1 is the Winona State University request to redevelop Bambanek Fields.
We had a pre-council meeting for about an hour to discuss this, and with Winona State University representatives and our Park Rec Department, and I guess we're being asked to see if we want to continue this conversation.
I would move the motion for discussion.
Okay, motion by Paul,
I'll second it.
seconded by Al. Discussion?
Were we going to amend this motion? Would it be appropriate to do it as an amendment separately or included in Councilperson Double's original motion?
And you would amend it to say what?
Amended would include something to the effect to request Winona State and the city hold a public meeting or forum for those community members who wish to gather more information about this project and to publicize same, and at the point where the discussions are about to lead to another action before this body, more of a final action.
Would you
Unless
accept that as
council-
a?
Yeah, I would
friendly
accept that
amendment?
as a friendly amendment.
Okay.
Okay.
George?
I think Chad kind of had everything down there in our pre-council meeting as to how you wanted this worded, or.
Mayor and council, my suggestion to council was to approve the resolution with the addition that directs staff to work with Winona State on a public hearing before we would enter into negotiations, which means I would give a presentation to the public that you received tonight at the pre-council. Following that presentation, we would negotiate with Winona State and draft a lease agreement. After that process is complete, we would hold another public forum and then bring final recommendations to council.
I think that was the gist of what we had looked at as, and I think from our standpoint, one of the things that we feel is very important, and just like to state on making the motion, that we definitely, as a council, would love the public's input. We would like them to hear the details, ask the questions, provide their input is very important to us. And so that before we enter into any final agreement, that we make sure that they understand it's still their park, they will have use of the park, and that that's very clear.
Other comments? Jerry?
I made my feelings crystal clear to city staff and WSU staff at the pre-council meeting, and I'll just make it real brief here. A year ago, when this was initially brought to us, I was very in favor of it. after looking into it and after, there's not really been any changes, but just after spending a lot more time looking into it, I am against this moving forward. However, I'm fully in favor of getting as much citizen input on this as the entire council was, and having the give and take between administration, WSU, and the public. But I'm going to vote against this tonight because I just don't want to see this move forward. I think the overall concept is excellent, just not on city land.
Other comments? George?
Is there any timeline as to when you would have one of the, of course, I know we just talked about it here about an hour ago, as far as when these meetings would, or these open forums would take place?
Mayor and council, discussions with Winona State Administration following the pre-council, we'll try and do those as soon as possible. And I think within, based on schedules, I think probably within 30 days to have a public meeting seems reasonable. Again, negotiations, another public hearing, as we mentioned in the pre-council, we would probably like this, any final recommendation be brought to council prior to July. So I think a first public hearing within 30 days is reasonable.
Okay, thank you. George?
And with this here, I'm going to vote for this tonight to have, which involves these meetings. And then once we hear more from the public as to what their thoughts are on this, then I will make a final decision as far as going any further with it, so.
Okay. Jerry?
Maybe you already thought about this, Chad, but as you and Maynard move this forward and getting the public input, probably be best if it wasn't, have a time constraint by butted up next to a council meeting, but if it could be, so it'd have a longer schedule, so maybe an evening that is not a council meeting. There's something to consider. It'd be hard to get all this done in, an hour, getting all the input. Just a thought.
Mayor and council, just a clarification, between a public hearing and a public open forum, I think we were thinking more of a public open forum.
Yeah, you had just said the opposite, at least that's
Sorry.
what my words heard.
Yes.
Yeah, I think what we talked about before, the open forum would be.
Correct. I stand corrected. We would not do that scenario that we just outlined as a public hearing. We would do it as a public open house or forum.
Good, thank you.
And advertise it in that manner.
Thank you.
Any other comments before we vote? George?
I think, and let's schedule the meeting for City Hall, because then most of the city residents would be more familiar coming here than going somewhere through the Winona State campus, so.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 5.2 is the Masonic Temple Historic Structures Report.
Chad, you want to address this?
Mayor and council, as you may be aware, the city did apply and was successful in securing a $10,000 grant from the Minnesota Historical Society to complete a historic structures report, otherwise known as an HSR. When we brought the grant application forward to you, we asked for a match from the city to make that grant application, and this council approved a match up to $25,000 to complete that HSR. So that gave us, in a sense, a total budget of $35,000. After we secured the grant and agreed to the grant requirements, the city solicited RFQs for the HSR. City staff conducted an internal review of the 4 proposals received. We are recommending Miller Dunwoody Architecture to complete the HSR at a cost not to exceed $45,000, which means what I'm asking for tonight is that the council approve an additional match to the grant, to the $10,000 grant. So what we're asking the city council consider is an additional $10,000 to complete the HSR. That $10,000, what we're recommending, will be coming from an encumbered budget item from the Masonic Temple roof project that we have not moved forward on. There is a balance in that line item of $55,000, and that is where the request for the additional $10,000 is coming from for the HSR.
I'll move it.
Motion by Paul,
I'll second it.
seconded by Al. Any further discussion?
And the final report, looks like it's gonna be July sometime,
August, I think.
or August? August 2014, okay. Thank you.
Correct. Mayor, Council, just for clarification, that would be the completion of the HSR, and then we are required to complete the grant by December 1st of this year.
Okay.
There is a motion to approve this request, and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.3 is the fine arts recommendation for Blue Heron funds.
Move to approve the attached resolution.
Motion by George. Second. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
By Al. Discussion.
Just comment, Mr. Mayor, I'm always pleased to see how this initial project back in 2007 is continuing to fund these kinds of projects over the last 7 years. And the Blue Heron Project folks are to be commended for their foresight in putting this project together. Now, the question is obviously what's going to be next, but this has been serving the city well in the arts community, and I certainly support the motion.
Other comments? Well, I agree with Councilman Thurley. I think it's great, and I hope they're thinking about another fundraising project because they're not gonna have much money left here. Any other comments? George?
I know this Fine Arts Commission, when it was first formed, I know my wife was one of the charter members of it, original members, and this committee has come a very, very long ways in doing things for the city of Winona. So all the members are all to be commended for their work.
Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.4 is the MnDOT request for a temporary stage increased concurrence.
So we'll, motion by Paul,
Second.
second by George. Discussion.
If we could ask our Public Works Director
Keith,
to
could
explain
you,
this.
Explain this a little bit to the public and to council.
You bet, Mayor and Council. The request is, in building the bridge, they have to do some work within the river channel, and it's a temporary construction for that. In putting that in place, it restricts the width, the flow in the river to a small amount. Their hydraulic analysis says 1.1 foot in the 100-year event. The levee itself is designed for 285-year event, plus there's 2 foot of freeboard over and above that. In reality, not a hydraulic analysis, but my opinion is that in that size event, the increase in flow would be very small, perhaps half an inch or something along that line. The levee system can fully handle that easily.
Questions for Keith? All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.5 is the union contract with AFSCME Local 1788 for 2014.
Move to approve that labor agreement.
Motion by Al,
Second.
second by Jerry. Discussion. This is identical to an earlier union contract that we approved. We'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
Carried with one abstention.
Item 5.6 is the State of Minnesota DNR grant contract for the control of invasive aquatic plants at Lake Winona.
A motion?
I would so move approval of the attached resolution.
Second. Motion by George, second by Paul. Discussion? Questions? Hearing none. We'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.7 is the polling places for the 2014 primary and general elections. The only change is for the primary election for Ward 4, Precinct 4, to be moved to the Pleasant Valley Church.
Move to approve the list.
Second.
Motion by Jerry, seconded by Al. Discussion? We'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.8 is the purchase of 2 transit buses.
Move to approve the purchase of those 2 buses.
Motion by George,
Second.
seconded by Paul. Discussion?
When,
Al?
when would they be delivered in use?
I just found out last week that the 2014 chassis are already sold out. So we're looking at delivery probably November to December.
And that we
Are
have,
the old ones traded in or
They
sold
will be
outright?
traded in, or no, they will be sold to another party after the new buses come in.
Okay.
okay.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.9 is the certification of completion, final estimate, resolution of acceptance for the 9th Street Sanitary Sewer CIPP improvements.
Move to approve the attached resolution.
Motion by George,
I'll second it.
seconded by Jerry. Comments or discussion, questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.10 is the certification of completion, final estimate, and resolution of acceptance for the Franklin Street reconstruction project.
Move to, go ahead, Jerry.
Move to approve the attached resolution.
Motion by Jerry, seconded by George. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 7.1 is council concerns.
We'll start with Paul.
I have none other than to say that I'm looking forward to the future discussions as they work their way through the process from the environmental committee.
Okay. George, next.
We had that request for Cotter High School, and at one time, we had 5 Cotter graduates on the council. Now we're down to 2. Jerry and myself, so. And every now and then, we get a senior high school one that kind of sneaks in up in the first ward, so.
I don't know.
May 8th or May 6th, is that train day? Do we plan on doing anything special with train day, or? did
We
you-
are. There's a plan in place. There's a committee that worked on it last year.
Okay.
Eric Brahm, I think, is chairing it, but working with the Heritage Preservation Commission. And I guess Mr. Moller's left already, but I know they're gonna be giving donuts out to people that come over there. Greg Gowd has a program he's gonna do about the history of the depot. I think we're gonna have some cookies for the people that when they get off the train.
Okay, so I was just wondering, because I know that one year, I know, in fact, 2 years I helped hand out donuts. I didn't know if we were
Oh.
doing that yet, so.
Well, that's the plan, so.
And I
We'll
only
let them
gave
know you
about,
wanna
so.
give out donuts. They are Blado's donuts, we should.
And I would just like to offer condolences to the family of Lorraine Bauer. Lorraine, who passed away this past Saturday at the very young age of 90. Also was a neighbor of mine for many years. And to her children, David that I know, and Deanna, and Mary, and Fred Jr., condolences to you on the passing of this very wonderful lady. Thank you.
Jerry?
Nothing to say.
Al?
Just a reminder, I think I got a little brochure in the mail the other day about the Bluff Country Studio Art Tour. It's happening this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 25th through the 27th. Speaking of the Fine Arts Commission and all that, I'm sure they're well aware of that. Also, we received our Sister Cities International Directory, which I'll give to our city manager for filing. And internationally, Councilperson Alexander, I have a picture from the Facebook page, and probably people on TV can't see it, but she gave an address welcoming or expressing appreciation from the city to our sister city in Masato, and she gave that in Japanese in the council chambers at Masato, I think, on the, either yesterday or the day before. So she's done a wonderful job representing the city, as have all the ambassadors that are over there now and soon on their way back. And also sympathy to the family of Bruce Johnstone, who passed away. Bruce was a fire marshal. He served the city of Winona Fire Department for over 25 years. That's all I have.
Well, nobody mentioned it, so I'm gonna mention that, this Saturday is Earth Day, and also we have Wednesday through Saturday, our Midwest Music Fest coming up this weekend too, so lots going on in Winona. City Clerk?
And under the consent agenda, there's one item, approval of minutes for April 7th.
So move approval.
Second. Motion by Al, seconded by Jerry. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried.
Mayor, I move we adjourn.
A motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Yes.
All right, we're adjourned.
Have a good week.